Welcome back to the Unwritten Rule. Mizzou football, for the first time since 2018, is 2-0. That's obviously the headline story. Doesn't really matter the result. Mizzou football is just 2-0. Doesn't matter that those wins came as a 35-10. Definitely was a lot closer than the scoreline tells against South Dakota. And more importantly, a 23-19 win over Middle Tennessee State University, a team that has quickly become Missouri's bogey team, it seems like, in terms of a non-Power 5 school. Peyton and Kenny, we decided to jump on here Saturday night. We're recording this first part because we have a lot to talk about. And I think we were all just kind of itching to get our takes out there. We're going to record the rest of the show Sunday night. 23-19, Missouri playing Middle Tennessee State in a game. A game of football was had. Again, I don't think you can ignore the headline, you guys. 2-0 for the first time since 2018. Eli Drinkwitz has really turned this ship around, and I think that's the way this narrative should really look. I'm kidding. I'll let you guys take it away. We all watched this game. Yeah, it was a game of football, and yeah, Mizzou coming away with a 23-19 victory. What an embarrassing performance. I'm just gonna start it there. You guys go ahead.
Yeah, Drinkwitz in his post game said there are things to improve on, but let me start with the positives. I'll do the same thing. Let's start with the positives. Nate Pete looked really good. I thought Nate Pete, when he got the ball, was maybe Mizzou's best player. The problem was they used him like once in the second half. And I think people know when that was, but that was the only time he was used in the second half. Other positive, Luther Burden, other than that OPI at the end. Very good. That was what you want to see from a wide receiver. One, I do think that first throw of the game for Cook, the deep ball, that's a catch. It wasn't a good ball. It wasn't a great ball. It's a catch I think Luther Burden himself would want to come down with. That's all for positives. That there really is. It was a concerningly bad day. Last week I said if that was Mizzou's worst game against South Dakota, they'd be in good shape, and they immediately had a worse performance than they had against South Dakota. This was a total. It was just a letdown, a big letdown. The headline's going to be the offense. Obviously, it has to be the offense. You can't come in as a 21-point favorite. You put up 23 points total. That's not good enough. You come out in the first quarter, your defense holds them to like negative 20 million yards total in the first quarter, and you're up 3-0 after the first quarter, and you had 4 drives. That's not good enough. Brady, Cook, and the offensive line, not good enough tonight. The run game was largely not good enough. It did seem like Drinkwitz identified what he felt was the biggest issue, and that was the O-line. He said it was hard to imagine he wouldn't have personnel changes on the O-line this week. And first one that came to my mind, Cameron Johnson might have played his last snap as a starter because he was a total train wreck tonight. Got bowled over on the very big play that was Brady Cook fumbling through the end zone on the safety that was his man. Javon Foster was not very good tonight. It happens. I know. I mean, for Javon Foster, he's been as steady as an O-lineman as you can find really in the SEC for almost all of the time he started for Mizzou, but he was not very good tonight. Nobody really had a good night. I mean, Marcellus Johnson, the other transfer from Eastern Michigan, I mean, he had that critical false start that ultimately didn't mean much, but it was something that can't happen. And just the constant penalties from this O-line. I mean, it was like watching a worse version of the 2022 offense. It was just a total disaster. There was a stretch in the third quarter where I was like, okay, I think they're actually going to send us home a little happy here. They were really they came out of the half aggressive on offense. Cook had that deep shot to Luther Burden for 44 yards that led to a touchdown catch where Theo Weiss did what Theo Weiss should be able to do for this offense, and that's win a jump ball. He used every bit of his 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", whatever it is, frame. Went up, high pointed a ball, touchdown Mizzou. The drive after that, I mean, they were just very efficient the first 2 drives, and they were efficient on the third drive and got into Middle Tennessee State territory again. Cook messes up a little bit on a read option, but still 4th and half a yard. And this is where I think things went from just, oh, this is kind of a bad performance to this is a problem. Eli Drinkwitz decides to punt on 4th and 1, a decision that he's been conservative almost his entire time here when it comes to these decisions. So it is you should kind of expect it, but this was next level. I mean, your offense is looking the best it has in any stretch this season. It's 4th and half a yard. You need to trust that you can get half a yard some way, somehow against Middle Tennessee State. Okay, you're up 13. There's very little risk in doing it, but instead he opts to punt, a decision that was so bad the entire stadium booed it. The beat writers even were kind of questioning this. The offense, according to one tweet, I'd have to go find it, looked like they wanted to go for it. And what do you know? It doesn't pay off. Middle Tennessee marches down the field. They score. This game became, it looked for a minute like Middle Tennessee really was going to pull this out. That decision was bafflingly bad, and that it's not going to change. He's always going to, I think, go. If he could do that over again, I think it would still punt, and I think that's a problem. But I'll let you guys start to go. Those were just my initial thoughts. Yeah.
Two of the big things that you heard a lot last season was getting the explosive plays on offense and bringing chaos on defense. We really haven't seen that through the first 2 games. Of course, you're going to face an FCS team. You're going to face, middle of the road, smaller end Division I team in Middle Tennessee as you move your way into the SEC, as you move your way into playing Kansas State in week 3. And it just hasn't worked out. At the beginning of the game, it looked good. I mean, opening the playbook, Peyton mentioned that one play with the double coverage, a pretty aggressive catch from Luther Burden, doesn't come down with the ball. A couple plays later, he threw a seed right down. Brady Cook threw a seed right down the middle of the field, overthrew Luther Burden, who beat his man. He had the steps on him. He had an opportunity there to catch the ball. That looked good. Those are 2 explosive plays that if they happen, I mean, this offense is rolling. It's rolling down the field. There's opportunities to score there. And then you don't really see anything else other than that. I think one of the biggest explosive plays, other than what Peyton said, was the touchdown to Nathaniel Pete, and he was just wide open. I mean, Middle Tennessee just didn't have him marked. They didn't see him in the backfield. And other than that, I just don't know if they're still trying to get used to the offense, trying to get Kirby more like settled in game action with all these weapons and figure things out. We heard Drinkwitz say that he's opened the playbook the last 2 weeks, but it's just nothing's really clicking on that end. And I think it'll come with time. And it's just you're going to face a really good Kansas State team who's bulldozed their last 2 opponents next week. So I don't know, it's not a good time to be struggling in that category. Looking at the offensive line though, coming into the year, I mean, we talked about this offensive line. We saw it as like a strength. We saw it as a lot better than last year. If there's going to be personnel changes, we've talked about EJ Ndoma Ogar for the longest time. And if he can slide into one of those guard positions, move someone out to tackle, like Peyton said, if Cameron Johnson is not going to keep his position, I mean, that could happen as well.
I want to go to the end of the game and just get y'all's thoughts on the chaotic nature of that last drive for Mizzou with all of those penalties. I know I was watching it, and I literally said during the drive, I was like, it was that 3rd and short or whatever. I was like, there will be a false start or a holding here. Sure enough, false start, next play, holding.
OPI, but yes.
Or yeah, the next play OPI, basically holding off the ball by Luther Burden, who otherwise was, I would say, almost flawless in this game. And we can get to him. And then of course, you get the defensive pass interference on the 3rd and 21 or whatever, automatic first down. You're able to kill the game off. Like how many times are we going to have this conversation? I mean, we got texts from our friends and other writers and stuff of you think Drinkwitz is going to say that we're going to have to cut down on penalties from the offensive line? Like this is ridiculous. I mean, let's call it for what it is. I think like the fact you're going to say there needs to be personnel changes is an understatement. I mean, this offensive line, there were 2 guys on this list that made the PFF, whatever, had the best grades against South Dakota. And then you go and lay an egg like this against Middle Tennessee that's unacceptable by Mizzou standards. I mean, like, come on. I wanted to ask Kenny, you kind of answered it. Like, first of all, I want your thoughts on just that sequence and what it felt like to experience that over and over. Because I did think we were going to have another Georgia. They're going to punt the ball to Middle Tennessee back with 2 minutes left. They're going to drive down the field and score. I mean, they had all the momentum. Thoughts on that? And then in addition to EJ Adoma-Ogar, maybe some of these other guys that could maybe slot in and get a chance. Peyton, I won't even touch Mitchell Walters, approach him playing. But, like, is there who else can kind of do a job here? Obviously, I think Javon Foster, like you said, is kind of exempt from this. He can at least be allowed a little bit to have a bad game with his track record. But what the heck? Like, they got to figure this out.
The O-line, I mean, it was one step forward against South Dakota, about 40 steps backward today. I mean, Drinkwitz really, that was the thing he really kind of harped on the most in the post-game press conference, was that the unit was not good enough tonight. And I have to agree for the most part. I know a lot of people, it's so easy to point the finger at Brady Cook, and Brady Cook was not good tonight. Let me preface that. I don't think he played very well. But how good can you expect him to play? I mean, really, there's 2 things that really should have been better tonight that would have helped mitigate Brady Cook's performance. For one, the play calling when Middle Tennessee is blitzing as much as they would, ball's got to come out faster. Call up some little quick outs, call up slants, call a screen. I don't care what it is. Ball has got to come out faster. And it looked like Brady, maybe the play calls were like that and Brady was just thinking too much. Maybe he was holding on too long. But it was not good. The ball needed to come out faster. The second thing, the O-line just could not handle the pass rush. And they were playing Middle Tennessee State. They were playing Middle Tennessee State.
There was a guy, they had a backup linebacker who had 2 sacks in the first half.
Yeah, and I mean, the run game even, I mean, in the second half, it really started to fade. I mean, Cody Schrader just had no room to really move for a while. Just looking at it, I mean, Kenny touched on it already. The most obvious guy that we've talked about over and over, EJ Adoma-Ogar stepping into one of the guard positions. I don't know, obviously, which person Drinkwitz is thinking about maybe moving off the O-line. I'd have to imagine it's Cameron Johnson, just from connecting the dots from he lost the center position battle so quickly and he just got blown up a couple times tonight. He would have to be the one I would imagine is kind of being looked at. That would probably be EJ Adoma-Ogar's spot. I will touch on Mitch Walters. He is listed as the backup right tackle now, so he can move inside, but I kind of doubt that's what they're going to look at. They've seen what he can do. It's not much. So I don't imagine we'll have to deal with that again. I'll go against what you might expect. I don't think Connor Tollison is in any danger. I think he's totally fine at center. He had the weird snap infraction tonight, but he was never the guy that when there was someone in the backfield that he looked like he got beat. Obviously, I wasn't watching the O-line every play, but I don't know. It was just a messy night for everyone. Even the defense, I mean, we haven't really touched on it. I don't think the defense played super well, and it's not really their fault. They had some tough situations to be put into, but I mean, even when they punted the ball, Mizzou punted the ball when they probably should have gone for it on 4th and 1. They did not respond and get Mizzou's offense back on the field. Like, it was just a bad night for everybody.
Yeah, you said it well and everything there. I actually wanted to touch on the defense a little bit.
Yeah.
There were some guys that kind of stood up and you saw some good plays from it. Niles Gaddy, who Peyton mentioned, played without gloves on, no sleeves or anything. He had gloves and sleeves on. He was looked like a different player out there his second time. And I think it was one of the first opening drives. I think it was the second drive, maybe from Middle Tennessee. He had a big tackle for loss. He looked good out there. A lot of the secondary guys, guys who not necessarily the cornerbacks, defensive backs, safeties. I'm saying guys, later on the depth chart, that came in for these extra plays, looked pretty good. I mean, Drayden Norwood had a stop, I think it was, I don't know if it was a pass deflection, but he had some, kind of a breakup there. Dalen Carnell looked great. I mean, he's looked good last year as well. He was very underrated in that star position. Looked good today. 8 total tackles, 3 solo. He had a sack, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass breakup. Overall, really great game for him. But coming out of halftime, 3 straight first downs. I mean, three straight plays. And then that's where it's kind of you went into the half. You knew things weren't going right on either side of the ball. No one was playing a really tight game, and that just comes out and it happens. It can be kind of frustrating. And I thought Darius Robinson said it well. This is a quote that Wendell Shepard, friend of the show, tweeted. We won the game, but it's not the standard that we set in the spring. Wins are hard to come by. So anytime you win, it's a blessing. We know we have work to do. So at the end of the day, you're 4 games away from being, extending your season, becoming a postseason team, playing in a bowl game. But you also, barely got past a Conference USA opponent. And I mean, that's a good way to think about it from Darius Robinson, especially someone who is a captain on the defensive side.
Yeah, I got a little frustrated with Chris Abrams' drain at times, because like there was one play I know he had where he almost took the ball out of a receiver's hands, but then at the same time, would just have some, kind of risky moments. He had a couple against South Dakota too. And is this are we in a situation with Mizzou where they just need to win the coin toss every time? Because like we've had now 2 like third quarter drives where it takes nearly half the quarter. South Dakota ran that clock down, and Middle Tennessee drove straight down the field to start the second half. I mean, like, I hate to like akin it to basketball, but like, Dennis Gates always talks about like that middle 8 for his program. Like that's important. It seems like in football too. I mean, like Mizzou's come out flat in the second half is what I'm trying to say on defense. And that's a problem.
That was my main issue. The defense has been good. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It has been far from what its peak can be, I think. They have yet to force a turnover through 2 games, and I think that is an issue. And I know there is a degree of randomness to turnovers. A lot of that just comes on bad throws or maybe just a bad fumble. But to not have forced a turnover against 2 opponents you should be a lot better than, it's not something where I look at it and go, this is a big issue that might be indicative of some troubles, but it is something that I would keep an eye on. And another thing, Mizzou has the defense at times has just struggled to get off the field. I mean, I don't know, maybe I can find it real quick. Middle Tennessee just converted a lot of third downs tonight. I mean, Mizzou just could not get off the field a lot of the time. They did at the end when it mattered most. And that was what Drink said to open his press conference. The defense did stand tall on 4th and 8, and they came away with the big stop they needed. And yeah, they went 9. Middle Tennessee went 9 for 18 on third downs. That has got to be better. That's just, and I'm glad Darius Robinson had that quote as a defensive captain. We didn't play to our standards, because this cannot be close to the standard. I mean, it was not the best performance for anyone.
Yeah, it was a lot of playing down, and I think Mizzou is very guilty of that. And Kenny, that's what I meant to bring up. Drinkwitz won the toss in their first game and wanted the ball first, which you don't see that much, and seemingly wanted to trust his defense to come out and make a statement at the start of the second half. I don't know if you can have that anymore. If you're going to be winning coin tosses, like I don't know, but at the same time, offense looked flat too. So maybe there really is no perfect solution there. Going back to the offensive side of the ball, I mean, I guess let's talk about the good for a second, because where on earth would this team be in this game without Luther Burden? I mean, like, so Luther Burden, 100-something yards on like 9 catches?
117, I believe.
117 on 8 catches. Other than the penalty, he didn't have a touchdown. Other than the penalty, I thought he was just about flawless. And I mean, like, just would, again, like bouncing off of tackles, he would turn nothing into something at times. Maybe and the Brady Cook Burden connection seemed to be there. They took that shot in the first drive of the game. Brady Cook underthrew it. Burden couldn't really bring it in. They had that like 40-yard dot. Like, does he need to be unleashed a little bit more? This was his career high, I think, in yards. Is it just going forward? It needs to, okay, yes, we know Luther Burden can do this. It's time to spread it out a little bit more, guys. Like get other people involved.
They every time Luther Burden gets the ball, it's so far and away obvious he's the most talented player on the field. I mean, I remember there was a little pop pass in the first half that went for about 8 yards where he had to shake off a defender 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Now, that stuff is not going to fly against SEC caliber play. It's not going to fly against Kansas State. Maybe won't even fly against Memphis. But he has that's his best ability is once he gets the ball in his hands, he is incredibly hard to bring down. I don't know how he does it. He just bounces off guys. I remember there was a kickoff where it just was second nature for him, the way he spun off, or it was a punt return rather, where he just spun off a gunner on the punt return and he somehow picked up an extra 5 yards when he should have been dead in the water. It's just, he fights like hell for every single yard. He is far and away the best player. Absolutely would not change how they're using him right now, really. I think it has been good. Good mixture of just designing touches for him on screen passes, little pop passes. I would maybe like to see him lined up as in the backfield a little more, kind of add that wrinkle to your offense. They did it a little last year, and I liked it. But you can tell he's getting so much more refined as a receiver. Last year, he would sometimes be a little prone to kind of not being able to win a 50-50 ball. But he was a freshman, and you can tell he put a lot of work into that. He's been so much better this year. He had one that he maybe should have had on that first drive, but underthrown ball. I mean, he's been great. I would not really change anything about how they've used him.
Here's the breakdown on targets in this game. This is from the Mizzou stats website. Luther got targeted 10 times. He got 8 receptions. Mekhi Miller had 2 targets. Nate Pete had 1 target. Josh Manning, the freshman from Kansas City, who I didn't even know had a reception in this game, he got 1 target. Brett Norfleet with 2 targets, and Theo Weiss with 2 targets. I think, you've said it. Yeah, I did not even see Josh Manning was in that game when he got a reception. The Mizzou stats website also has it wrong. They have it under Jaden Jernigan, and I was like, they did not put a defensive tackle out there. But other than that, of course, you want your best player to have the ball. Luther Burden is one of the most talented players in college football. He needs to put it together and to become one of the best wide receivers as well. I mean, there are still, parts of his game he probably wants to improve, and you can see it from anyone can say that there's definitely parts of anyone's game that can be improved. But you want to see Theo Weiss get the ball. You want to see Mekhi Miller. You want to see more targets. You want to see more plays. If there's only 2 targets on your number 2 and number 3 receiver, I don't know. I just think there should be more coming from these other guys, especially when you're going into SEC play, you're going into Power 5 play against Kansas State next week. You have to be able to rely on Theo Weiss. He didn't really have a great first game. The second game, Peyton said it well. He did go strong on one of those plays. He's a big dude. He can get up and make some aggressive catches. He can jump over people. And I just don't think we've seen it just yet. And I think it's something you need to really think about when you're heading into Kansas State.
That 3rd and 6 play, I want to throw this in on the Theo Weiss front. That was, I think, the best play call that Kirby Moore's had on 3rd and 6 at the end of the game. He trusted Cook to make a play. He found Theo Weiss. Theo Weiss made like 5 guys miss for like a huge game, but it was negated by that Luther Burden OPI. I do agree with that. You want to see him get more involved. There is a lot to work with there, clearly. But yeah.
And Peyton and I talked about this. I texted him before the game, and I was like, do you remember 2 seasons ago? So the 2021 season, Mookie Cooper joins Mizzou. Actually, it might have been 2020. Was this 2020, Peyton?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I think it was 2021.
2021. So Mookie Cooper's first year, because he was at Ohio State his freshman season, transferred to Mizzou. And we were watching him. We thought Mookie Cooper was going to be, something good. And we didn't really see him get involved. And the way he was getting involved was, tunnel screens or, like
weird
end rounds, gadget plays, just nothing really clicking. And to this day, we just still haven't seen Mookie Cooper really, make plays. He's a talented wide receiver. We know he has different tools. He's a little bit smaller. He can work well out of the slot. And we saw it well against Florida last season, but it's always like sometimes these wide receivers go missing. And I don't know if it's just the matchups those days. Maybe the plays aren't in favor of them. but I still think there are definitely wide receivers on this roster that could make plays, especially if Luther Burden's going to get double teamed or up against the best cornerback in the SEC come week 4, week 5. We'll see how it plays out, but there are definitely other guys like Mookie Cooper, like Mekhi Miller, and we see Mekhi Miller flash things at times, but Theo Weiss is just the number one guy that you also want to see just make aggressive catches.
Well, and Kenny, I want to like broaden that out and ask you, because you were kind of hyper focused on this team last year when it was Drinkwitz calling the plays, and now Kirby Moore is here. And I don't think by the common fan standards, he's blown anybody away with his play calling and, dramatically changed this offense. I know we've seen a little bit more explosivity, especially with Luther. I think that, like Peyton put it well, it's going to come naturally as he develops. But what have you noticed really a difference in these first 2 games with him at the helm now? And other than, I think you said it well about the wide receivers, but like what needs to kind of change and continue if this offense is going to become more dynamic with finally someone else calling the plays?
I brought it up a little bit earlier in the show about, there was those 2 plays at the beginning that you felt like, oh, he's going to open up some explosive plays. They're going to look down the field, get the offense rolling, make a statement early, show that there is an air threat. Then you can flash the run game. I mean, the run game was working at times, and then it wasn't. The offensive line had some holes, and we got into that. When I look at it, though, I don't see necessarily too many differences at the offense right now. Brady Cook definitely looks a lot better now than he did at the beginning of last season. I think, Peyton said, well, there are some mishaps. He did have the safety. There were some, when you just look at the stats, though, it's fine, 14 for 19, 204 yards, but there's definitely options. He's shown that he has an arm. He's fully healthy now. The surgery, he's gone through the full surgery process. I just think there's there's opportunities there to unload one, especially with Luther Burden, with Theo Weiss. There are, tall guys, there are strong guys in that wide receiving core. You can open up the field, get the air raid going. But most of the time we're seeing passes aren't even going further than 13 or 15 yards.
That is, I think, my biggest fear with this team right now is the offense we've seen, and I really don't believe Drinkwitz and co are holding anything back. I think that would be really dumb. And I don't think they're doing it. Mizzou is doing things right now that you can do to beat South Dakota and you can do to beat Middle Tennessee State. They're handing the ball off a million times a game and not throwing. But you look at it tonight, 46 run plays, technically, that includes sacks and everything, I believe, to 19 passes, that you're not going to win you're not going to win SEC games that way. You're not going to pound the rock and beat teams on the ground. You don't have the O-line to do it. Even if this O-line does wind up looking improved from last season, which I believe it will ultimately when it's all said and done. I think tonight was not great, but I think they're better than what they showed tonight. They need to find a way to air it out more. Okay, this is otherwise you need to look at everything you're doing. Brady Cook, I think, is capable. They showed it at the end of the year last year when Bush Hamden was calling plays. Brady Cook has the legs and just a good enough arm to produce a solid SEC offense, and that is all Mizzou needs to be to win 7 or 8 games. They need to be a decent SEC offense. And provided the defense doesn't take too big a step back, they will win plenty of games. But you are not going to get there running the ball 46 times and throwing 19. That is not good. Not a good ratio. It's doing things to beat lower competition. I was watching things in the first half. I don't know how. I saw maybe 3 plays where I thought that would work against a Power 5 team. And that is really bad.
It's so I watch, and I don't want to purposely compare them to an Alabama or a Georgia or the higher ups of the SEC because they're not there and they don't have the talent to do this. But it's so passive. It looks like everyone's kind of a little nervous out there, except for when Luther Burden gets the ball. And like Kenny said, it's getting really frustrating to watch because they have weapons. There are people that Theo Weiss had 1,000 yards in his career at Oklahoma before he came to Mizzou. And it doesn't look like, he's going to get anywhere close to there with the offense they're running. I don't know. It's just it just feels so passive and so tentative when you can like, yeah, you especially against these teams, it feels like you can unleash a little bit more.
I just realized, by the way, that you sparked my memory there.
Yeah.
That completion that they have in the books as going to Jaden Jernigan, that was Dennis Jackson. I remember that play.
Okay.
It was
Okay.
Dennis Jackson, not Josh Manning.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you completely, Knowlton. It's too vanilla right now.
Yeah.
And I think I don't like I have not been very impressed by Kirby Moore. I really, really liked what they did to start the second half. I thought it was way more creative. I thought that play to Pete, yes, it was a blown coverage, but I think it was they were able to scheme it up that way. I think it was a nice little motion for Pete out of the backfield, even if it's covered up. I mean, it looked like a creative play. It looked way more creative. They were taking more shots, and then Drinkwitz punts the ball there on that 4th and 1.
Yeah.
It just kind of throws everything off. Like they were in rhythm. I think we were starting to get a taste of what they could be, and it was too brief, and it was and that's not good either. Like when one thing doesn't go your way, it can upend the entire game like that. It's not a good sign.
I just like, yeah, I watch like even a Jalen Milroe, who is not a very good quarterback. I watch him be allowed to just chuck the ball 50 yards down the field on a 1st and 10, just taking a shot. And I'm like, but like Mizzou's not going to do this. They're going to hand the ball off. They throw a little check down, or do whatever. And I don't know. Yeah. And I think it's defined by that punting on a 4th and 1 at the 50, just that kind of conservatism. I think this game may have been, if it's defined almost by one moment, which could you even, other than the punt, could you argue it's this the Harrison Mevis extra point miss? We didn't talk about that at all. Not that it's a super quintessential part of the game. They pulled out the win in the end, but I mean, in terms of a comedy of errors, so to speak, that went on at times, that I almost felt like defined them all.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I mean, I know people are very angry with it. It's his first ever PAT miss.
Yeah.
You got to watch it, and you know that they're having troubles with the long snappers. They're having troubles with holding. The ball wasn't on the ground. Like, it was barely, like, he was moving it, wobbling it, and I know it's a chip shot. It's always going to be a chip shot. But it was a terrible hold. And you have to realize, holding is a big part of making any kick, no matter where the kick is. It was a terrible hold. And I mean, that's just where it is. And that's something that Eric Link and everyone on special teams needs to figure out.
Yeah, I just wish there was a way to find a link to all of these special team struggles. It's really starting to build up over the last 2 seasons. I don't know how Mizzou just went through an entire offseason and cannot identify the team's best long snapper and best holder. That is a little absurd to me. And for the record, this does not get Harrison Mevis off the hook. He needs to be better, and he probably knows it. Yes, the PAT was not his fault, but the whole special teams unit has become an issue. And they just got to go back to the drawing board on that, find the link to those issues, and see what can be done about that. Because right now, it just everything is a mess there.
Read between the lines there on that one. Don't forget never forget what was the Chargers team that they were like number 1 offense, number 1 defense, but did the worst special teams miss the playoffs?
Yep.
It matters.
Special teams ever. Those add up.
That stuff
there
matters.
Will be games, because I'm going to assume Mizzou cleans things up. They're going to play close games in the SEC. These moments, you can miss a PAT against Middle Tennessee, but when you're down 3 or 4 to South Carolina or something in October, you got to be able to rely on your special teams if it comes down to it. And right now, I don't think they can.
Yeah. Okay. Any other things you guys want to cover? Whether it's a look ahead, if we dare, quickly to Kansas State, or even just anything we missed from this game that I forgot to like bring up or anything.
We got one more.
Yeah, Kenny, you go. We got
one more thing on the Mevis topic. Just like one last thing I have here. We don't even have to get too much into the next game. We can do that in the next show. But he's a confident kicker. I mean, we saw him after that Auburn game. He bounced back against Georgia like that. If anyone could do it, and we had Callum McAndrew on the show, and he said this: like, if anyone can do it in the SEC, there's not a more confident kicker than Harrison Mevis, and it'll come around. I think there are some issues on special teams, and you can't blame everyone, and you can put blame on Mevis, but it'll come around. Of course, he's shown flashes of being one of the top kickers in the nation.
2021 All-American.
I don't have to redefend Harrison Mevis. I do it plenty enough off air. So those who know. I've got faith in the guy. Quotes. I think we got we said pretty much everything. We had
the best one I saw was a ratio of the week nominee.
Here we go.
When Power Mizzou, Gabe DeArmond, obviously Power Mizzou com on Twitter, he tweeted, Drinkwitz on the decision to punt on 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. Quote, up 13, if they've got to go 83 yards, their chances of scoring are a lot less than if they're on the 50. I think that's the right call every time. It has 101 replies, 3 reposts, 57 quotes, and 41 likes. Here's a third option that Drinkwitz didn't pull up there. What if they just got the first down? I know it's a novel concept picking up a half yard against Middle Tennessee, but
that's something I'll just like in college football. You can look at the NFL, you understand, punting on 4th and 1. It's a total different animal. But in college football, if between the 40s, sometimes I just don't understand why you just don't draw something up just to get a half a yard or a yard. Peyton said it. I think Peyton texted us. It was literally half a yard. It wasn't even a full yard that they needed. And they just didn't think anything. I mean, Kirby Moore came in with this great offensive playbook, and there just wasn't anything to really pull out there that Middle Tennessee hasn't seen. So, I don't know.
Dan Campbell went for it on 4th and whatever from his own 16-yard line in the first game of the NFL season.
And they won.
And they got it and won the game, by the way, against the defending Super Bowl champions on their banner night on the road. It's a difference in mentality. I mean, I guess I respect him that he defended his decision, I guess. He also said on the PI on Luther Burden, quote, it was an anticipation call. I think it was the correct call. Mizzou, do we think Mizzou got bailed out on the deep defensive PI late on the next play?
It was DPI. They did get bailed out, yes, because that was that was definitely that was another thing that blew my mind. You're not confident enough to run the ball or something on 4th and half a yard, but on 3rd and 20 whatever, you're fine with Brady Cook chucking a deep ball instead of trying to get Middle Tennessee to use their last time out. It was just a messy night. My final thing, this is even worse to have this type of performance happen when you had so many recruits in the building. I mean, you had Nwaneri there, you had Isaiah Mosey there. I mean, there were so many guys in the building, and this was a bad performance. And we've said this a million times. The recruiting is not over until that pen hits the paper on the NLI in December. And right now, it sucks to say it, but if you're Williams Nwaneri, you'd have to think you'd be like, that was interesting, huh? I mean, it was just that bad of a performance. It really was. That's last season when Mizzou beat Vandy on homecoming. I didn't think I could feel worse after a win, and they did it tonight.
There you go.
Rumor has it Nwaneri was wearing Oklahoma shoes on his visit.
No, don't do this, Kenny.
Is it Parker Thune?
Don't fan the flames.
Parker Thune says that is, quote, definitely notable.
Hashtag interesting.
Yeah. Only thing I'll say about the K-State game, by the way, is if they played like this next week, they will lose by 50 plus. I mean, it will not be a close game.
Yeah.
One last thing. I don't want to get too big into Kansas State because we can do that next episode and give all of our attention to that. Percentage on how much of the crowd will be purple.
I was thinking the same thing. It's sold out. It's sold out. There going to be a lot of Kansas State fans there.
There will be a lot. I still think it's closer to 80-20 than it is to 50-50.
That's fair.
Okay.
I heard.
I would think it's 70-30.
Yeah, I would do that. For what it's worth, I heard Middle Tennessee State fans on the ESPN broadcast yelling, block that kick when Mizzou had extra points tonight.
I think it's because Mizzou fans were so stunned they had nothing to say. There was not a sound on the broadcast when Mizzou kneeled it out. There was not a peep in that stadium.
Oh, I heard
good
something.
On the fans. Good on the fans for that.
Get angry. I heard him booing a couple times. It was good. Sorry, Kenny.
Someone yelled like Drinkwitz, your days are numbered.
I heard that too. I thought I heard that too.
That came through.
Right when Brady put down the final
I
knee.
thought I heard that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someone found the mic. Just got it.
It yelled out enough
Yeah.
that the booth could hear it above them.
It picked it up. Yeah, I meant to bring up the recruits. Thank you for doing that, Peyton. Yeah, Mizzou 23, Middle Tennessee 19. Tigers are 2-0 for the first time since 2018. Again, that's what you can go back. Take it away. Record banners fly forever. What is that? What is that they say? Record still
Banners
stand.
fly forever.
Banners fly forever.
You need to go 4-6 to make a bowl game now.